The directors, thank you for turning that on. Meeting. The date is Wednesday, May 4th, 2022. The time is 6:30. We're in the Wyndham Town Council chambers. And prior to this, we held an executive session where we had our roll call and the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will ask, first of all, if there are any adjustments to the agenda.
There aren't any adjustments.
There aren't any adjustments. Just to let people know that Jess Bridges and Char Jewell are joining remotely via Zoom, and I can see them right now in front of me.
Excellent. All right, thank you. So we'll move into a motion.
I move to approve the student under consideration be readmitted to school and that the superintendent provide the parents with a written summary of the board's findings.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Abstain?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda is public input. As usual, we are asking for a limit of 3 minutes. And who would like to speak?
Hello, thank you for having me, Ken Clark. One thing I want to say real quick is I was wondering if there'd be any consideration to renaming the civil rights team, or civil rights team to the Team of Civil Rights and Inspiration. It could be known as TCRI for abbreviation. And I just think, I know when I watched the presentation from them, I saw a lot of things on civil rights that I thought was good. But honestly, it was presented in a time frame that I don't think shows what they're doing throughout the year. And if they need some other topics to address, I think positive quotes posted in the school. I know they used to be in Manchester. I thought it was great. I'd walk through the school and see all these things that were inspiring. So I wonder if you can see some posters up for that. And again, just rename the Team of Civil Rights and Inspiration. I think it's pretty cool. I had sent in some questions to Chris, Mr. Howell, and one of them, well, 3 questions, and the first one, I'll just read it out loud. Are teachers talking about sex, transgender, and the 22 classes of sex they feel my daughter can fall into qualified to discuss these subjects? If so, what specific qualification trainings do they have? Do their degrees in history, math, LA, and science qualify them to talk about these issues with our kids? Do any of them have degrees in child psychology? Do they have any training from other licensed adults in this arena? Do they have any certifications on proper training of these topics? Are you aware that coaches working with children, which I used to be, with this age group, are professionally trained to avoid these topics altogether? And if they do breach these subjects, they can be fired and possibly face criminal charges. I don't know why there's such a difference with a coach working with a teacher than working with students and a teacher. Chris, you gave me an answer. You indicated that in order to respond to my questions, you need further information. For example, could I provide details about the class and staff member you're referring to and the content of a specific lesson or unit that prompted the questions? And I guess I brought it up before. Amy Engelberger's class.
I'm sorry.
She has.
I'm sorry.
If they're going to teach this stuff in class, it's a public meeting.
No.
They should have a right to know.
I'm sorry. We may not mention any kind of personnel.
Okay. Well, there's a class that I've held up the book before that talks about the 22 classes of sexual, emotion, everything else they can have. Does that person have specific training in this arena? That's my question. Moving on, there is still a BLM poster in a class. It is designed with hearts around it. So it was, Mr. Howie described it as not a Black Lives Matter poster because it had hearts. I honestly feel like we're being placated. My kids know what it is. I know what it is. Would it be okay if they put up a mega poster with hearts around it? MEGA stands for Make America Great Again. Again, you're saying the stuff's down respectfully, it's still up. And we're all in a Zoom call and it was there, so we can't deny that, with all due respect.
Your time is up. Ooh, that is extremely loud. Sorry about
Thank
that.
you.
Right, you're welcome.
Anyone else? Seeing none, we will move into the superintendent's report.
Sure. So a couple things to share tonight. First of all, this is Teacher Appreciation Week. which is Staff Appreciation Week. And I also noticed here that it's also Public Service Recognition Week, which I was not aware of until I entered Town Hall tonight. But just want to take this opportunity to thank all of our wonderful RSU 14 staff. They have faced considerable challenges this year. They have considerable challenges they're going to be facing as we roll out and end the school year. And just really want to say thank you to them. Also just want to say a huge thank you to the Raymond PTO and the Wyndham PTA. What they have done to show support for staff this week has been absolutely incredible. So really just wanted to thank both groups. They have gone above and beyond in order to be able to support us. Also want to introduce you to Justin Hudner, who is there at the back of the room. He is going to be our new middle school SRO in RSU 14, and was notified of that right before vacation, and has started training now with Officer Sear and is actually working on that succession plan. So he and Officer Sear are both working together. Justin filled in for Officer Fournier for one of the times that we had to leave for medical leave, and I will never let Officer Fournier forget that, but did an outstanding job. Justin, an outstanding job at Wyndham High School, and we're excited to have him joining us at Wyndham Middle School and Jordan Small Middle School. I think he's going to be an outstanding addition to that building. Also want to just bring everyone's attention, and I sent something out this afternoon. Wyndham High School is going to be doing their annual crime scene unit. Officer Fournier actually was a huge part of helping to plan that with public safety. That big kickoff is tomorrow, and through that, I just want to let the public know you are going to see additional police and possible fire presence on campus tomorrow morning as part of the project. It's an exciting kickoff for students, and I've been given a little bit of inside information on the crime, and I think students are actually going to have a great time trying to figure out what happened, and it's a great way to do some hands-on learning and learn how to collect data and actually come to some conclusions. So, great piece of project-based learning. Also, another piece that I just wanted to highlight from today, pool testing in the state of Maine is no longer. I think the last set of pools will be collected next week. The state has offered a different strategy, which is to try to get test kits in the hands of families and students so that people can have access at home and that we're not relying on pools. Part of that data is just that the latest variants are moving so quickly. By the time that a pool comes back, the variant has already moved through a population. So this is what we received, 3,700 of these. And there's enough there for every staff member as well as every student in RSU 14, and those will be distributed next week. There's 5 tests within each kit, and it's an opportunity for those who don't have access otherwise to testing to be able to have that at home. There was an option for parents, if they do not want to have these delivered to their home, to opt out, and we just encourage them to reach out to their school offices for that. Public budget meeting is Wednesday, May 18th at 6:30 in the Wyndham High School auditorium. All registered voters in Raymond and Wyndham welcome to attend and participate in this meeting. It's an important meeting, and it's step 2 of 3 as we work our way through the budget. Christine and I had a chance this week to visit a couple of fairs at Wyndham High School, the Capstone Fair and the Career Fair. We were both absolutely blown away with the Capstone Fair, with the depth of learning and also the interest and some of the life lessons that students have learned through that process. I heard from a number of kids, this actually, for me, kind of solidifies that this is a good major for me. And for a couple it was, you know what, maybe I don't want to head in this direction. And so great learning opportunities, some fantastic projects, and just our kids really worked hard to do that. I know we have some seniors who are still working on finishing up their capstone project, but we're getting close for that. I want to close, just want to share kind of a glimpse, and I shared this at Finance last night. There are moments in this job where things are obviously stressful, and there's moments when you say, you know what, this is a pretty special place to work. And I think it was Monday afternoon, I had a chance to go and watch couple of softball games, a little bit of a baseball practice, a lacrosse game, and during the lacrosse game, everyone was called, kids lined up, national anthem played, and everybody on campus stopped. softball game stopped, and everybody stopped, turned to the flag, and honored the national anthem. And it was very moving to see an entire campus with multiple activities that are going on with everybody doing that. And it's one of those moments you say, you know what, this is a pretty special place. And it was great to see. And I think boys lacrosse, that was quite a game with Gray. I think by the time I left, it was 13-14 to 1. Wyndham up on Gray, but just a very special afternoon. So it was good to see. Also that night we had the choral concerts with Manchester and Jordan Small and Wyndham Middle and high school. It's nice to see those things coming back to normal. So a lot of events happening over the next couple weeks. AP exams are going on. Seniors are busy. We are hitting that home stretch where things get really, really busy, and graduation is not that far away. So that's what I have for tonight, and things are good.
Thank you. Committee reports. Finance?
Yeah, as Chris mentioned, Finance met last night. Talked about a few things here, including year-to-date spending, year-to-date revenues. You'll notice in your folders, there's this paper that kind of outlines. And this was through April, so 2 months to go in the fiscal year. And we're tracking where we need to be. On the expenditure side, approximately 20% still remaining. The only area there that's of any consequence, facilities maintenance, you'll see that there's only 4% of what was budgeted remaining, and that's just because we've been trying to get some revolving renovation projects wrapped up, get some things into this year's budget that won't impact next year's, so that may require a little bit of a transfer towards the end of the year. We received some news on the lunch program. We typically do a transfer to keep that balance break even. We may not need to transfer as much as we typically do, so that was good news there. We went over all of the warrant articles just to get a preview of those and an explanation for those that were new. One of the things that is new this year that people will take notice of is that based on the advice of the attorneys, there's an article in there that will allow us to transfer more than 5% of any particular warrant article, so long as we're not exceeding the total budget that's approved by the voters. So if we find ourselves in a situation where we need to do that kind of a transfer, it just gives us more flexibility. And I think that's pretty much the highlights. We talked about the amount of the fund balance that would be used to supplement revenues and reduce taxation for the borrowers, and I think that's 1.2 million this year. So I think that was pretty much it.
Very good. Thank you. Scott's not here, but any update on facilities?
Construction is not meeting tomorrow. The next construction meeting is 2 weeks from tomorrow. And right now, we have environmental scientists who are out doing field studies for 812 Gray Road, 61 Wyndham Center Road. In addition, also want to mention that they're doing some studies on the Manchester property, and part of that is in preparation for some redesign work that facilities will be bringing forward here in the future on trying to design in a parent drop-off lane, a bus drop-off lane, and trying to divert traffic a little bit better. One of the reasons why trying to get this work done now is we're still in conversations with the town about Manchester possibly being used as part of the North Wyndham sewer system. If there's engineering that has to be done on site for that project, we might as well roll it all in at the exact same time. So Danielle has had some yellow-shirted or orange-shirted folks kind of walking around as well, and in essence, what they're looking for are vernal pools or for environmental issues for any one of those sites that may prevent those projects. I have talked to facilities, I've not talked to the full board. The town of Wyndham is planning on June 14th to have a vote on the North Wyndham Sewer Project at this point. We're still in conversations about our particular part of that project. Just one piece I should add for the communities is that rolled into that project is an extended sewer line that runs, if 61 Wyndham Center were to be the school site, an extended sewer line that runs to 61 Wyndham Center. In addition, for the pump station, an extended line that would run to 406 Gray Road so that we could take the high school, middle school, primary school treatment plant offline and no longer have our own sewage treatment plant. So that is part of that project that the community is going to be voting for. We've had that system since 1964, and it has been upgraded multiple times, but to not have that liability in the back of your head of issues with a sewage treatment plant may not necessarily be a bad thing. So more information to come on this, but a lot of pieces still have to go into place for the town as they work through this process, but we will ultimately benefit should this be passed.
Thank you. Policy meets on Monday. Jessica's not here for curriculum. Anybody on the committee that,
What date did we set?
We meet Tuesday.
It's next Tuesday.
so curriculum meets on Tuesday. Excellent. Adult ed, anything?
Yes. We have a meeting coming up on Monday, May 16th at 6 o'clock.
Okay. Seems to be the time of meetings.
Yep.
Excellent. Marge, vocational?
Not till the 10th.
I'm going to keep asking you because you never know.
It's our last meeting.
Okay.
May 10th will be the last meeting for this year.
All right. And then finally, Al.
Yes, I just wanted to share that at the high school today, it was an early release day, and it was ACES Day, which is all children exercising simultaneously. And originally it was planned to have a bunch of activities that the students get to sign up for, but because of the weather, that was canceled. But instead, we got to get a performance from the chamber singers and the modern band, which was absolutely amazing. So both of those student groups, kudos to you for doing that pretty last minute. And then we also got line dancing lessons, which was, I'm not sure how I was going to feel about that, but it actually ended up being kind of fun. So thank you for everybody who organized that. That was a super, super awesome day, for sure.
Great. Did you announce?
Can you give us a quiz?
Please.
Oh, yes, right, quiz show. I can't believe I'm the one who always brings that up. Yes, so the Wyndham Quiz Show team won their first qualifying round, which was aired, I think, last week or the week before on Thursday. We go back to record next Wednesday. I'm not sure when that will air, but I will definitely keep everybody posted.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Exciting. Okay, we're going to move on to board roundtable. Anyone have anything they would like to say? Pete?
So prom is coming up on
Yes.
Saturday, so just hope that everybody goes and is safe and has a great time. It's supposed to be at the Ocean Gateway in Portland. It's been, a couple of years since they've been able to have a normal prom, so it's good to see that happening again. And then I learned today, I haven't verified it, but I've learned today that Planet Fitness is offering from May 16th until August 31st free memberships for high school age students in some sort of an initiative. So for any high school students that are interested, I would go to their website and check it out.
Yeah. It's a good deal for the summer. Marge?
Just actually a question that came up before, and I know you said it's going to be on the agenda, but do we have a closer idea of when we'd be talking about or looking at therapy dogs and cursive writing?
Therapy dogs is scheduled for October for the policy to look at.
Great.
And what was the other one?
Cursive.
Cursive.
Not October. I'm bringing
Uh-huh.
everything to the curriculum committee Tuesday, and then the committee will decide when it's coming to the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yep.
We, the school board members, got an invitation to go to Augusta for recognition from the legislature. And I ended up going, kind of last minute, but it was wonderful. The Maine School Board Association contacted some legislators to see if they would do a joint resolution, and I'm going to read the resolution. Whereas school boards are charged with the all-important responsibility of being accountable for the education of Maine children in order to prepare them for a rewarding and productive future, and whereas school boards must articulate a vision and direction for their school systems, set high academic standards, and approve hiring of qualified staff most capable of making that vision a reality, and whereas school boards must adopt a budget that balances students' needs with the community's ability to pay and advocate for passage of that budget to ensure the school district has adequate funding to provide all children with the opportunity to learn, and whereas all of these responsibilities and more are done by volunteer school board members who put in countless hours in meetings and in the community advocating for their schools, representing the interests of children, parents, and all citizens of the school district, and preserving the valued tradition of local control over kindergarten to grade 12 public education. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the 130th legislature, now assembled in the second regular session, on behalf of the people we represent, take this opportunity to designate April 17th through 23rd, 2022 as School Board Member Recognition Week, and encourage local districts and community leaders to appropriately recognize dedicated school board members across the state. They had said that it had been done a while ago, having a recognition by the legislature, but it hadn't been done in years. It was really nice. There was probably about 15 or 20 of us from all over the state, and I got to meet some other board members from other parts of Maine, and we had some wonderful conversations. We started off in the Senate, where Senator Bill Diamond recognized that he had somebody from the district there, and which was nice. And then we went ahead and went all to the House, and that was very short, and it was very nice just have someone say thank you, and it's hard work for what you do. So they're going to try to make this an annual tradition to go ahead and recognize the school board members in the future too.
Terrific.
So anyway.
Sounds
there
like a
you go.
good experience.
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else, board roundtable? Seeing none, we're going to move into public comment for Title I application, and we are delighted to have Christine Hessler, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, here to present to us.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you for the invitation tonight. So this is my annual visit to all of you and to community to share with you our pre-allocation from the state. So for community that are listening or anyone in the audience, we wait each spring find out what our federal funds will be in the order to use in all of our title grants. And so the sheet that you have as board members in front of you, and we have this document also posted online. I'm just going to read through so public at home can also hear. Please know that I don't need to have comments tonight. I welcome them, but we also have public comment opened until May 16th. So community, staff, anyone can email, call, let me know what their thoughts are, and I'll share with you. Our small committee met a couple weeks ago, and we talked about our funding. So that all of you have a historical perspective, this comes under the Every Student Succeeds Act, and we post this for our intended use of the funds. Mm-hmm. So if, for example, in Title I, which is underneath supplemental instructional services, I also put down what our actual funds were for this fiscal year, so you can see the difference. And so for Title I for next year, we are receiving $465,319. That is an increase of $67,000. That is a large increase. I was actually anticipating us being cut, and we weren't. So this was great news when I received these line items. Under Title I, just for everyone to familiarize yourself, we use these funds to support some mandatory required projects, which are homelessness, supplemental instruction for literacy, and supplemental instruction for mathematics. These grant projects under this umbrella pay for the salaries and benefits of one Title I teacher and all of the educational technicians that work with our students in our elementary schools. So all of our staff is paid out of these funds. Which brings us down to Title II. Title II funds, our preliminary allocation came in at $115,460. That is an increase of about $1,000. So what we do in Title II, this board has recognized for years, is we have a project called the Class Reduction Size Project. We pay for a kindergarten position at the Wyndham Primary School. So when we take the salaries and benefits out of that position, we have about $31,000 left. The team that we met with thought the best thing for us to do is to transfer that money into Title I to grow that pot for the number one project that we have. We also have Title IV funds, which that title is Student Supports in Academic Enrichment. Our preliminary allocation is up by about $5,000 this year. We're coming in at $41,326. And again, in order to meet the needs in Title I, we're going to forward those funds into the Title I, which gives us a grand total of $537,763 to support their Title I staff. We find that student support and academic enrichment, we're able to cover those under existing projects in the general budget. And our goal always is to cover anything that has to do with supplemental instruction for Title I in the district across the RSU. This board has been very gracious. When we have positions that are not covered by the grant, we haven't eliminated positions. We've paid for those under local funding. So this will be able to pay for us for more of those funds this year. And again, this is open for public for any comments or questions about this process or the allocations of these funds. You're welcome to reach out until May 16th. The application for me to begin usually is about June 1st and is due August 1st, which I submit on behalf of the RSU. And then along with a performance report on how we do data-wise in November. So.
Any questions?
Okay, yeah, so these are preliminary allocations. When do we find out what the actual allocations are?
When they open the application, usually is June 1st.
So,
I've never seen it go either way, more or less of $500. They're
that
usually,
was my next
yeah,
question.
they're
Okay.
usually pretty much spot on,
All right,
Pete, so
perfect, thank you.
you're welcome.
What is the rule for homelessness?
So in homelessness, we must put away funds to service any homeless students that could incur transportation, supplies. There's a window that we can work with McKinney-Vento. Lisa Garno oversees that. We are very fortunate in this district and both these communities that we have local people who step up and provide pieces for homelessness, but we do have a pot if we need to draw from for our students. So it could be that they need a certain calculator. They might need sneakers for gym class. They may need a text, something that they would need in order to be successful in the RSU and in their schooling.
Do we have a large population of homeless? I'm asking the wrong person.
Yes. I think it varies. It's hard to identify sometimes with students. I think that our staff does a really good job making sure of any student that is considered homeless under McKinney-Vento has what they need. And that's your social workers, your guidance counselors, your principals who are on the ground with kids making sure they have everything they need.
Good,
So.
thank you. Anybody else? So the final date for comment is?
May 16th?
May 16th, and they can email you.
They can email or call. They're happy. This is posted on the webpage, and my information is there as well. So.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Next up, it's always a pleasure to have all of our administrators in one room before us. I'm not so sure how they feel about it, but this evening, each one will present a brief update of their year to us, and we're going to start out with the high school with Ryan Karen. I don't, does this work?
All right. Thank you for having me. So Mr. Howell and Al and even Pete stole a lot of the stuff I was going to share for my update. It's been a very busy. After April vacation at the high school, you get back and things go very quickly. And it's been an exciting time. Students are doing some great things. The quiz show has been very exciting. We incorporated some trivia time in the morning, the first half hour this morning, as we were trying to put all of our pieces together with our revamped ACES Day. We had an opportunity for all kids to do some trivia, and that was a lot of fun for kids and staff members. The Capstone Fair was excellent. We had about 70 kids present, where over half of our kids are completed now, and now we're working with the students that need a little more direct support, and really doing a lot of time scheduling opportunities for students to share what they've learned with us. But it continues to be a lot of fun. Career Fair was great. Tomorrow we have the crime scene. So it's just a lot of things going on. In terms of our goals and where we're at, when we met earlier in the year, we talked about the curriculum guides. We've got the curriculum guides completed. Christine's helping me get them posted to the website, so now we have guides on a common format in a common language using the ICANN language underneath the graduation standards, so easier for students, parents, even teachers to follow. That was a big undertaking. It encompassed about 70%, one way or another, of our NEASC recommendations, because it clearly delineates the difference between the honors level classes and an academic level class, and what we're asking different curricularly in those classes. It also allows us to move forward with our RTI plan, which is the other part of goal that we talked about earlier, where we created the Eagle Block time as a remediation to start for students who had lost during closure, and then students who had difficulty keeping up during the pandemic years. And now we're transitioning into an opportunity, a real-time opportunity for students to get help. And what our hope is that we'll move away from this as an opportunity for you to complete an assignment you didn't complete. Instead, it would be an opportunity to spend time with a certified teacher that can reteach or teach the standards that are taught in that class. So it's not necessarily an opportunity to get help getting something done, but it's an opportunity to learn the material that you may not have learned. So we're pretty excited about that. We are a little disappointed that we haven't been able to hire. We used some ESSER funds to post for a position to have a full-time person to run the Eagle Block, and we were able to find the candidate we wanted for that, but we're hoping that next year we'll have that option for students. And then as we move forward, we try to build this program so that we're catching students as they start to stumble and not picking them up after they've already fallen down. So that's our hope.
Perfect. Any questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
We now have the principal of the Katahdin program.
Hi, folks. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I'm Craig Hames. I'm the director of the Katahdin program. So back in October, I spent a bit of time kind of talking about how Katahdin hopes to align with the new strategic plan and what we hope to do regarding the goals in the strategic plan. We also outlined a few just general goals and intentions that we had for our school. One was that every student at our school will have a transition plan in place for success post-Katahdin. Every student will have 2 adult advisors who know them well and work with them in a dedicated period every day. The students will know the core values and commit to doing their best to uphold them every day. And also, all students will engage in relevant project-based coursework that requires student voice and active student involvement. So those are some things that we hope to achieve, and then kind of diving into the strategic plan. So the equity and inclusion core belief. Around that, there's a lot that we could talk about, but the piece that we kind of shined a light on is our restorative learning. Restorative learning is aligned with equity and inclusion because it addresses the root causes of behavior, and it is tailored to the unique needs of each student, emphasizing learning over punishment. An update to that, so the preceding year, we were in hybrid. There were very few kids in the school each day. Therefore, there were very few behaviors that we had to address. There is a correlation between density and behaviors. So this year, we held 67 restorative learning process meetings with 20 different students. These meetings have, get my glasses out because this is in small font, helped students take accountability for their behavior, taught them new strategies to manage their challenges, promoted respectful self-reflection and productive dialogue with others, and increased their capacity to manage conflict responsibly. Big fan of restorative work. We do it sometimes just with kids in isolation when they've had a significant incident and they need to be removed from the setting to really begin to look at their own behavior and what the antecedents of the incident were, what their role in the incident was, and then how we can find new pathways to change their behavior. Sometimes it's done in larger group settings when it impacts the entire community, where we might have a restorative circle to take a look at what happened, what the causes were, and how different members of the community can learn new strategies to get along better and to work well together. So this year, our restorative program was definitely in full swing with 67 different opportunities to address this. In terms of learning, we see so much of it, and often when students have multiple restorative sessions with us, the difference that you see at the beginning of the year with an absolute inability to take accountability to their capacity to take accountability for their behavior at the end of the year is remarkable, and I wish I had videos of it to show you because it's pretty impressive. So the next one is Whole Child. So Katahdin teaches all the core academic areas. We hit the standards that are aligned with the core academic areas, but what we hadn't had in the past was a lot of arts enrichment. So for Whole Child, we really wanted to kind of energize that part of the brain that loves art. Alternative schools tend to speak to students who tend to be fairly artistic. So with ESSER money, we hired an artist who had expertise in crafts and also ceramics. So we had 110 hours of arts enrichment programming in ceramics, handcrafts, and we also worked with a musician to create some songs, and that was pretty impactful for students. Additionally, we had 3 students who successfully in the process of completing vocational programming at PATHS and WRVC in early childhood education, masonry, and computer repair. For student engagement, this year we decided that we really needed to up experiential programming for seniors who are about to graduate and join the workforce. So all seniors that are in good standing, that were queued up to graduate, had the opportunity to get a paid internship in a vocational or pre-vocational area of their choice. So we have students that are out there in the community full-time for the month of May, and we're checking in with them daily and their employer daily, and they're getting paid. We have people in early childhood education, elder care. We have a student also working on a farm in dairy farming, so a whole variety of different things. We had hoped to offer this and have almost all of our seniors actually want to do this. What we found is there's a percentage that would prefer to come to school. So some of our seniors are coming to school and some of them are out in the community earning money and learning vocational skills. Staff engagement and alignment. We had ongoing PLCs once a month with the entire staff. This year we took a deep dive into best practices in advisories. We read articles, analyzed curriculum, and shared success stories from our everyday advisory lessons. For community engagement, we thought at the beginning of the year that we would partner with Habitat for Humanity, Ruth Reusable Resources, Partners for World Health, Loon Echo Land Trust, and Gorham House. We ended up partnering with Be the Influence, Ruth Reusable Resources, Gorham House, Loon Echo Land Trust, the East Windham Conservation Project, the Windham Historical Society, the Yellow Tulip Project, and ECD out of Massachusetts. Transferable skills. Again, because it's new and exciting, I decided to highlight our internship program with a number of our students out in the community. And I'm just excited about that because it's pretty innovative, it's pretty new, and I think each year would like to build it and build the partners that host a student every year, so we create strong ties with the community and have kids, learning in the real world. And that's what we have. Does anybody have any questions?
Pretty impressive.
Yes, Pete?
Yeah, Craig, in terms of the restorative sessions, are those all held within the normal school hours?
Yes.
All right, so I imagine having those sessions is a little bit of a interruption to what the regular learning plan is, but do you do that so that it doesn't feel like punishment?
Well, we do it for a number of reasons. You got to strike when the iron is hot in terms of behavior. So we find that when there's a behavior that arises, it's always best to address it right away. And because that behavior has repeatedly landed those students in trouble and hot water, which is often why they sometimes end up at our school, we see it as a critical area to address. So yes, we do have to pull them sometimes out of the class to address it. Sometimes it's a quick process where we go through our seven-step process, and at another occasion I'll get into the 7 steps. Other times it takes a while. And we don't tend to have them re-enter the learning environment until they've taken full accountability for it and they're in a place where they understand that they need to do something differently and work it out. And often that will also, there'll be a mediation involved, typically between another student as well, or more. So it's a process.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
This is more of a request for the board than it is for a question for Craig,
Yep.
because I know the program really well. I would ask that anybody on the board, if you have the time at some point, that you visit the Katahdin School, because you need to really be there to see this is not like going in to any other school, and it does not have it's not structured like the high school or any of the other schools. It's extremely unique. I've been there many times. Mackworth Island, Camp Hines, where they are now. It's different. It is really, really different and very advantageous to all the kids that go there. I think everybody gets their own need met in a different way there. So I would say if anybody ever has the time to definitely make plans with Craig to go in, and you need to go there. You need to see what happens in that place. It's unbelievable. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Marge, and that's true. We love it when we have visitors, and showing people what we do is we enjoy it. So please come by anytime. One other note that I'm excited about or felt good about is that in the month of March, we had 3 days with 100% attendance, and as long as I've been in alternative education, I can remember 1 or 2 days in the past when we had 100% of the students show. So I feel like the students are getting their needs met, they're engaged, they're learning, and they want to come to school. So that's good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Randy Crockett, come on down for Jordan Small Middle School.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to give you a little update. We started out the school year with 2 major goal areas. So one I would term a short-term goal, which turned out to be a little bit of a longer-term goal in the end, but it was to look at how students would re-enter after either being in hybrid with small classes every other day or being fully remote for some or all of the year. So the building council and I talked about how to kind of narrow that focus, and we came up with 4 areas within this goal, which was academic stamina, getting used to being at school every day with the work that is expected, and also managing homework and kind of easing into that and building that up. We also talked about social pressure and excitement, just being back in a school with the whole group, which they hadn't been for quite a while, of course. And then reestablishing our community and school culture. So some of those traditions and practices that have just grown to be part of Jordan Small on a regular basis, Of course, our fifth graders had never been in middle school, right? And our sixth graders had been as fifth graders, but it wasn't typical fifth grade. So it's kind of like half the school really didn't know what middle school was going to feel like, and working towards that. And the last thing was communication, school to home, really making sure we were on top of that, making those phone calls as soon as we needed to, from anybody in the staff, to reaching out to parents and encouraging them to do so. And so I think we did pretty well at meeting most of those goals. But as I was reflecting on that, was what we kind of missed was how big a gap it was for some kids, that not being in that social setting in the same way for such a long period of time. And it doesn't feel like 18 months as an adult doesn't feel quite as long as it does to a 10 or 12-year-old. And so, I had more incidents, for instance, of sixth graders on the playground just getting into arguments and scuffles and things like that because they hadn't had that building year in fifth grade, and all of a sudden they were thrown together. So we're still getting a handle on that, but it's been interesting that the impact of COVID on kids developmentally, just all those impacts. So I would just consider that goal part of the social emotional learning piece of school, where you have to be feeling safe emotionally and physically and ready to learn in order to get full access to your brain, so to speak, and really grasp new material. So that we're continuing to work on it. I think it's gone well, but it's been a few bumps along the way. And goal two, yes, I can say that, is to develop structures and practices that promote and support project-based learning. So we had started down that road the previous year, and then closure kind of just run us off the rails a little bit. So we started out the year talking about defining transferable skills. Like if you're going to do project-based learning, what types of attributes carry through from subject to subject, grade to grade. For instance, how to work collaboratively can be a big part of project-based learning. Some of the more functional pieces of it, if you're creating a project, what does high-quality work look like? Whether it's a visual presentation or a model representation. So the staff worked together to tackle some of those subcategories and came up with high-quality norms or descriptors that can be used across grade levels and content areas. And then we started talking about, okay, what exactly is project-based learning? What's that going to look like at Jordan Small? And we thought, when we started the year, that we would kind of come up with a blueprint or a set of characteristics. And the more we worked with it and studied it and looked at different opportunities, we realized that wasn't as important, that we have this really tight definition of project-based learning. And what we've arrived at, and we're actually using it today in our professional time on the early release day, was essential elements of project-based learning, and realizing that you don't have to have every essential element to have a good project, or that some might not lend themselves to doing each element. So for instance, an authentic product might be one piece of project-based learning, or a public opportunity to view it or to share it. And by public, I do mean could be just school, within the school, across grades or different groups, or out into the public. Those types of things may or may not be in every project, but we had the staff today present their current work so that they could all hear about some of the cool things that were going on that many of them weren't aware of. If you teach 8th grade science, you probably didn't know what was going on in 6th grade general music class for a project. So today was an opportunity for them to share those pieces and then look at it through the lens of those essential components and say, yes, this was part of this was a big focus. This element we just didn't worry about. And so we've kind of evolved now to say, here are the essential elements of a project-based learning environment. It's okay if you don't get all of them every time. And some projects are pretty big in scope and take many, many weeks and may go across multiple curriculums, and others may take 3 or 4 days and be very focused. So it's an ongoing goal. It's going to be there for next year and probably many years after that. But we've made some great strides, even through some of the other roadblocks that have come up, with the closure, and then with worrying about masking rules and worrying about distancing, and working collaboratively is a little harder when you're trying to navigate that and those types of things. But really proud of the staff and the work they've done this year to keep that moving forward. So,
Thank you. Any questions?
Randy, do you feel that your eighth graders are ready to go to the high school after what they've been through the last couple of years?
Ryan's still here? Some of them. So that's a hard question, Marge.
Yeah.
I'm going to answer it, though. I think it has disrupted for some of them. If they were having some struggles academically or socially, as, say, late in 6th grade, starting 7th grade, I think the last year for them magnified those problems or those difficulties, so that, we've had to spend more time with kids in 8th grade, helping them distance from social media, interact better one-on-one, and in groups, and in class. And yeah, it's been a little bumpy for them. I mean, they had a kind of a tough hand dealt to them, being just starting adolescence and then things happening that were beyond their control. So academically, I think they're probably as ready as they can be, given all the disruption, and some are certainly probably at or have surpassed what we'd expect for some 8th graders. But other kids struggle because it was harder to learn remotely, depended on, the situation at home in terms of time and resources and other distractions and such. So, it's, the plan for the math program is an example of a response to that need. Like, there's gaps that we wouldn't have hoped would be there in normal circumstances, but they are. Does that answer your question? Kind of.
It was the answer I thought you would give, but I felt that folks at home should also be aware of that, because I know there's a lot of, between your school and Wyndham Middle School, there are a lot of 8th graders that are going to be doing that transition, and middle school is really, I think, really tough for most students, to be able to not have really been able to settle in there and then just jump right into high school. So, yes, thank you, you answered
Right,
it.
and some of the things that would normally be part of that process of developing as leaders as you work your way up to 8th grade on in athletics, in music productions, and so forth, that wasn't always available to them. So they didn't have some of those milestone opportunities that most kids get as they progress through middle school and start to say, oh, here's some things I want to focus on when I get to high school. I'm really interested in this. They don't have that same foundation.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm going to piggyback off that, and I don't know who I'm asking this question to, but it seems like not too long ago we had a mentor, like a buddy program, in getting the 8th graders, at least at Wyndham Middle School, prepared for high school. Ryan, am I crazy on that, or did we not do that like a couple of years ago? We had like a buddy program.
We had just started, Lynette had just started a program to have some mentors going over just before the pandemic. So we have a few now that are helping out at the middle school, and a couple that are interested in helping out maybe in the elementaries. But it's just now, we're just getting back to it since the mandates are off and we've got that opportunity. But it's something that we'd like to increase. It's part of we're looking at ELO learning opportunities, extended learning opportunities, ways that students can earn some credit for helping out and mentoring and doing those things. So we're going to try to incentivize our students helping middle school students, and then building kind of a tradition of doing that. So it's in the works.
Good. Yeah, I think that would be very beneficial, and it's harder for, kids being at Jordan Small, but maybe whether it's Zoom sessions or anything, just a resource that they can have to just kind of talk about some of their fears or, some of the things that are on their mind. So, thanks.
Anybody else? Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Up next, Drew Patton, principal of Wyndham Middle School. Welcome.
Some fridge hangers or fire starters, whichever one you. All right, thank you for the opportunity to talk about Wyndham Middle School tonight. I'd like to just reorient everyone with student outcomes. I presented these in the fall. I think they're great. Helps us to really hone in on components of the vision in a more palatable way that doesn't have a bunch of letters and numbers attached to sentences. So for our student outcomes, I'm part of this academic community. That was a big focus for us this year coming back from the pandemic. I can succeed at this. This was another big focus for us coming back from the pandemic. My ability and confidence grow with my effort, and this work has value to me. So ideally, everything that we do at Wyndham Middle School is aligned to one of these 4 goals or all of these goals. An update, when I last presented was we're in the process of forming a new leadership team. I've been in the habit of refreshing that every 3 years, so this would be the 3rd iteration of a leadership team since I've been at Wyndham Middle School. This year we tried to add a very diverse selection of staff, so that would include an ed tech, so the first time we've had an ed tech representation on that leadership team, and then a school librarian. And so the first things that we did as a leadership team was looking at staff feedback, behavioral data, a lot of school-wide data, and we basically came up with 2 focus areas for the school year. And so one was to focus on staff efficacy by increasing staff collaboration time. So one of the issues that we had with students with the pandemic is isolation, and that's one of the issues that can happen with staff. Teaching, believe it or not, as a teacher is a very isolating job because for the most part you're with students the entire day, and you don't have a lot of opportunity to collaborate, to get feedback and give feedback because you're by yourself. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't isolate staff, so increase collaboration time, celebrate small wins. That's been a really big and powerful thing for us this year, is with everything on the plate, all of the negativity that can occur with the job. We wanted to make sure that staff were honed in on the small things that were going really well, whether it was individual student successes or success in a particular lesson that teachers have tried, and kind of reorient ourselves with what the baseline is and what goals should be based off of that. We can wish all day long that students should do all of these particular things, but the reality is they are where they are, and we've got to meet them there and figure out how to get them further. And the other focus for the leadership team was ensuring that students in applied arts classes were as successful as in content classes. So that was looking at some behavioral data from those classes, coming up with some hypotheses as to why sometimes students are not as successful behaviorally in applied arts classes compared to content classes, and then thinking about some changes that we can make from a school perspective to ensure sort of that equity across the content areas in applied arts. Professional development-wise, math teachers really focused on professional development from our math consultants. And those particular components we're looking at modified scope and sequences. And so that's based off of COVID. And then also taking a look at scope and sequences so that we can be more efficient at what we're teaching in terms of math items that are going to be more beneficial to students. So when we spend weeks on long division, and everybody in here uses a calculator, we think more about the process and understanding math concepts. So scope and sequence changes, looking at development of units and the development of assessments. So that's been going really well. And then our non-math teachers, to give a little bit more autonomy to them, they basically selected professional development goals based off of aspirations for students. So that started with what aspirations do you have for your students aligned to one or more of the student outcomes that we have, and then basically designing their own learning around that, and then sharing and collaborating with staff along the way. So we have a check-in point tomorrow in terms of staff after school, and then we'll be getting to sort of presenting those as a whole school to one another about what it is our aspirations were, what took place, what we learned, what we changed along the way. And then bigger moves for us school-wide, designing and vetting alternative programming to support at-risk and disengaged students. So we were in the process of doing that today at one of our staff meetings, taking a look at the resources that we have and thinking differently about how those resources can be allocated to support students that we identify as at risk or disengaged. Christine was a part of that today in terms of just listening to the discussion. Have a meeting with Chris and Christine on Monday with some proposals around that, and then hopefully we can start to look at what proposals would go forward, and then team structures and other supports to align all of that together. Another move for us is looking at our schedule and a potential schedule shift to align applied arts with team teachers for a semester at a time. A couple things that would benefit that is promote stronger relationships with applied arts staff. Remember, our applied arts staff see lots of kids over a short period of time, and that's not really conducive to long-lasting relationships, understanding behavior plans, understanding needs and supports. It's also not conducive to blurring the lines between the content areas, which is the other words of creating student engagement through relevant real-world application. So we'd like to see less about going to math and going to ELA and more about something that's real-world that has all those components embedded within it. Teaming to support students, and when we have teachers working in highly effective teams, they're better able to support student needs. So we got cross-curricular work, I think I mentioned these, and then also looking at the addition of advisory to promote equity among students who receive services. And so when I mention that is we don't really have a school-wide time where there aren't students pulled out for something. So if we look at our Ignite time, when we have executive skills, Tier 1 intervention, that's also when specially designed instruction occurs. It also is when intervention occurs. So it's really hard to get all the students together, regardless of disability or services, to provide them with team-based challenges, conversations, exercise, those types of things. So we'd be looking at the schedule to also add some type of advisory. And ideally have that advisory where students know that teacher over the course of 3 years at Wyndham Middle School, so that there's a trusted adult in their lives on a continual basis. And then another school-wide move is, Randy's talked about this a lot of alignment there between the middle schools, is just a focus on project-based learning for the spring of 2023. Not new to us, but also we want to get back to that. We feel strongly that it's a really big lever to pull that hits a lot of the components of our vision, and also is really the model of learning that the new building will be designed to help support. So we've got to make sure that we're ready for that, so it's not a adjustment to staff in fall of 2026. It's rather a complement to things that they're already doing, and that the facility supports that type of learning. And then the last things are just plugs that I would like to make sure that we bring up. So if you want to get a sense of what good project-based learning looks like, please come tomorrow night. We have our Taking Back Maine's Future project-based learning event. That's 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Wyndham Middle School, DeLorean time machine, beautiful weather. We planned it all together. Really big event. Chances are news outlets and things like that are there. And the most important thing, it's a special event for the kids. And that's what we call, in terms of project-based learning, a culminating event. And in this case, where their stuff is on display for the public. And so if every student there has an opportunity to have a conversation with an adult that's important to them, that's the goal. So if you can come and help to be one of those adults, that'd be great. Lastly, just in terms of some of the conversation tonight about getting back to normalcy, we are back to our 8th grade dance cruise. So we've been on hiatus for a little while. I missed the last one because my wife was pregnant and had a baby at the time, so I only got the updates from Mrs. McBride at the time. So June 10th, 6 to 9 o'clock, those permission slips, notices will be going out to families, so we're really excited to be able to offer that to our 8th graders. These are 2 years ago when the pandemic hit, 6th graders that really haven't had a lot of those types of opportunities in the past. So.
And the 9th and 10th graders that missed are invited to come back?
Yes, I think that's June 11th. Pete, I believe you're chaperoning that.
I have to say I'm really excited about, under your school-wide moves, designing and vetting alternative programming. I know we've talked a bit about the Craig's program and the limitations in numbers, and how at your age level there are quite a few kiddos that could use some support in that realm, so I'm excited about that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So it was nice that you mentioned collaboration with Jordan Small Middle School on the project-based learning. Thinking ahead to fall 2026, I'm sure there are a lot of other plans about collaborating and getting projects and programs to, along with some of the, Manchester students, to start getting that as one building. So I'm looking forward to hearing about all that you do, because it's going to be a lot of work, I'm sure. But anyway.
Funny that you mentioned that. So we have a meeting slated for May 20th, which includes Chris and Christine and Lisa, myself, Randy, Danielle, and really that's kind of this acknowledgement. Those things moved really quickly this year, as you all know. We went from a Wyndham Middle School project to a RSU 14 project, and it's really, I think, important that we're thoughtful in terms of that collaboration and planning. What we do know is I can't have Danielle's staff over with me every day until 2026. My staff can't be over with her, and so we have to be thoughtful about not operating in silos as we work to join those staffs together. So being thoughtful about that, making sure we're on the same page about goals for staff and for students. So we're starting that work early and really thinking about what that plan so that we're ready to go for fall of 2026.
Any other comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. I'd like to welcome Danielle Danini, Principal of Manchester Elementary School.
You push me.
Thank you for having me. I have a paper only for myself, not for you, not a handout. I want to just circle back to the goals that we talked about in, I think it was October. We have 2 goals at Manchester School that are aligned with the strategic plan. The first goal is engaging all students in high-quality instruction. And I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we talked about in the fall and let you know what we built upon. But if you've been here long enough, you might remember that in the winter of right around December, even November of 2019, but into the winter of 2020, our school was notified by the Department of Ed that we were on an action plan, and it was linked initially to our attendance data of some lower socioeconomic families in town. And that opened up this opportunity for us, if you look at it in a positive light, to have some coaching and some funds to really look at all our demographic and every which way you can look at our data and academic data and build an improvement plan. So that started right when COVID started. And that did not go away. Despite the context of everything that's been happening, we've been working really hard to be better teachers for our kids so that they would have better outcomes. So we've had a really strong and unwavering focus on our instructional practice and using really highly effective instructional strategies to support students. We had to take a little sidestep from the project-based work we were doing 6 and 5 and 4 years ago. We sounded more like what the middle schools are excited about now, and we do love that work. And like you saw in the video when we came for our update, we're still doing that work. But our professional time together on Wednesdays and during our staff meetings has really been focused on improving our instructional clarity. And that means being really clear about the learning targets, what strategies we're using to move the students forward, differentiating based on data, making sure we're involving students in that so they know what's the success criteria for today. So how do I know today, given this learning target that might go for 3 weeks or longer, how do I know today that I got what I needed to get and understand what I needed to understand? Building that reflective closure into all our lessons. That really has been our professional work. And we host that in our PLC time, professional learning community time, or professional learning groups, I think the high school calls it. We have benefited from coaching from the Department of Education But more on the ground with us, we have partnered with Great Schools Partnership, using some of that money that came from our plan from the state, to have coaching. It was Zoom for quite a while, but now it's in-person coaching to help our teams be highly effective professional learning communities. So we're talking about the strategies and structures and clarity and strategies like using student discourse, for example, which ties right into the, at the same time this improvement plan happened, the district was already on it. We already knew we needed to address math as a content area. We already had engaged in the audit. We had identified a curriculum we were purchasing and were going to be trained in. So those things dovetailed. So we really had a lot of resources to support us. It is going really well. We have a pretty rich level of tiered supports for students. So we have the core programming, and then we have additional support through Title I, which Christine mentioned, tapping into that resource through staff to do high-quality interventions for students in reading and math particularly. And then we progress monitor every week or every other week with research-based assessments that are quick and efficient, that let us watch growth trends in real time. And then we make adjustments if we're not seeing the growth we need. We have 65 students right now who are receiving the highest level of the core instruction, plus that more every day. Our data is showing really good growth. It did in the winter with our iReady. Our progress monitoring data looks good for students, and when it doesn't, we meet again and say, so what else can we do? We currently have invited, or will be sending the invitation, for 70 students to join us in our math camp in the summer programming, which we did last year as well. It had really good attendance. Segueing into so that all that really connects to the goal of student engagement in the strategic plan. The second goal that we set as a school is connected to the strategic plan goals 1 and 2, which are about equity, inclusion, and the whole child. I guess in order of operations, this is really what we, as Randy mentioned, this is really what we approached first this year, and we talked to you about how we did bring students back in with that really purposeful, inviting them back, getting to know them, getting to know their little names, even with masks on was a challenge. When they took their masks off, we were like, wow, that's who you are under there. So there was another relearning, actually. But we purposefully went through protocols as staff to see that we were connecting with all the students, and if we weren't, we made it purposely that it would happen. We did a student survey. We'll do it again at the end of the year, just about how they're feeling. Do they feel included, and do they have someone they trust and can go to? We looked at the data. It looked good, and we want to make sure that it continues to look good. We were really careful with our COVID protocols, like everybody had to be, and we were so happy to back them off as soon as we were able to. So now that the classrooms are rearranged, students are working in groups, they're, discourse from afar, if that's one of the most high leverage student instructional tools, to do that from afar was hard, but now they're really working in close partnerships, and that's just an example of, we really are getting back to normal and loving it. We grounded everything we did with our social emotional learning in our 3 Bs, which have been established right from primary school, in safety as the first, and then respect and responsibility. So that was a nice segue up from primary school, and hopefully will be to Wyndham Middle as well. We purposely, and I mentioned this in the fall, and it's still continuing, we focused as a staff on learning some common language around social emotional learning, so that we could consistently teach the students some common terms like whole body listening, like, Mrs. Briggs, I like the way that you are showing whole body listening right now. You're looking at me, you're facing, that kind of thing. And teaching some social emotional learning skills, embedding it throughout the day. What's the group plan? Ms. Gavoni, are you following the group plan right now? Yes, you are. Nice job. And size, one of the things I think Randy spoke to was that there had been a whole lot of missing time for students to be with each other, to learn how to communicate and problem solve at developmentally appropriate ways. So we focused on teaching students how to think about the size of a problem and match it to their reaction so that they weren't reacting in a way that was unsafe or really disruptive. And that's a work in progress, and it's gone well. When things aren't going so well, we're working really closely with parents. We are calling, we're meeting, we're bringing them in as collaborative partners, which is nice to have parents in the building again meeting with us. We are celebrating things that are exciting and fun for students. We're making sure we're just the little things, celebrating birthdays of all students and staff by mentioning it on the intercom every day. We're doing fun things like challenges and incentives, and how many times can you walk around the track, and then you earn tickets for that. We had March Madness, and students voted on a certain movie to get. That was the first time that the entire fourth grade was in one room together in years. So just bringing back, and really we tried to keep the fun all the way through the year by doing little quirky fun things in classrooms, but now we're able to do even more with whole school things. We've brought back, we had a team of fifth grade teachers had a science exhibition, first time in years, just recently, and parents came in during the school day, and it was a great turnout, and it was lovely to see people and have students have a real authentic audience for their work. We have, I think I mentioned this before, we had and have even more now, about 80 students receiving individualized counseling and supports of our social workers and Sweetser clinicians. That is an amazing thing that we can provide to students so that they can learn how to be with each other and be really functional members of our little school community. We also, in sort of speaking to the question about homelessness, we've noticed that the strong housing market for some has been great, but for others it's been really hard. So families are experiencing homelessness sort of mid-year, coming in because they lost their long-term rental they had in another town, and now they're able to live with someone here, but they may not have their own home. And students who are leaving, going to other towns for the exact same reason, because their landlord selling the house because it's such a good time to do that. So we've been really working with classroom teachers to work with their students, that when students are leaving, we are honoring them and giving them little gifts and little notes and communicating with their school when they get there, a Manchester t-shirt and such. And then we're also prepping students for prepping classrooms for students who are moving in from different countries with different languages and different cultures, and upheaval in their family, and maybe 4 people living in a 2-bedroom suite at an inn or so, So, but we're really working hard and it's easy to work hard because kids love to meet other kids, so it's not as hard as it sounds. They're clapping when kids move in, and it's amazing. So I love that about our school. So I would overall say that it has been another challenging year, and it's been a really successful year. And just cycling back to Staff Appreciation Week, just want to be able to say how really, truly fortunate I am, and we are, and you are, and the community is, to have every dedicated member of Manchester School staff helping the kids all along the way, and helping each other, because we really do support each other through the good and the tough times. So thank you.
Terrific. Any questions? Yep.
So remind me and us, how long is this review program from the state for the plan?
Wow, funny you should ask, because we didn't know, and honestly, the state didn't know. And just this evening, before we came here, Chris and I got an email from the state saying, in a nutshell, we can write a proposal to be done with the plan this summer. But based on our NWA data, we may be re-invited to join the plan. but there's no criteria for that yet. Or we can just choose to stay on the plan for another year, have the support of a coach and some level of funding, but we don't know what that level of funding would be. So we have a meeting tomorrow to talk about the pros and cons of both sides of that. We will keep you posted.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate the update. I'd like to welcome Beth Peavy, Raymond Elementary School.
Well, I have to say, I can't believe we're almost at the end. I just think back to the first day of school welcoming students and my staff to a building that was a little discombobulated with construction. Things were all over the building. People really didn't have a sense of, the way RES is normally. So that has been primarily my focus this year for my staff, my students, my parents, the community, is to bring us back to who we are as a Raymond Elementary School. And I can say I think we're getting there. It really helped when we didn't have to mask anymore. It was more mask optional. Just being able to see expressions. I see kids really much more animated and engaging and just starting to notice teachers and what they're doing. So that wasn't really transparent throughout the year. The goal for our school was really to come into school feeling safe, supported around the areas of social emotional, getting our kids up to speed with their academics, and then filling in those gaps where is needed and those supports, and ensuring our staff also were supported throughout the year. We have, I have to say, from the first day of school, have not had full capacity of staff. I think there hasn't been one day in my building where I've had all my staff. So on a daily basis, we've been looking at how to fill those gaps, because sometimes we have subs and sometimes we don't. And I know I had a parent that had spoke at one of the school board meetings who subs, saying that she sees like our interventionists sometimes have to come in and sub in a classroom and they're not an interventionist for the day. So I will say the staff rally together, they support each other. It is amazing because some days are really taxing, and I think every building has felt that this year. But they're always there. The people that show up on that day are always there. I might say I'm going to go do a duty, or they'll say, we'll take that, and we all just support each other. Not an easy year, but we've been there for each other. And I think that speaks to our district, our administration at the top, that just really supports us as well in what we're doing. For our focus for academics, it's really been around math, and I think I spoke to that this year. It's the first year with our students every day fully implementing the Ready Math program. I want to give kudos and high praise to Casey Dubé, who's our coach. She is articulate, amazing, and very knowledgeable. I've been able to sit in sessions with the trainings, the coachings that she's doing with my staff, the teachers, and they are fully engaged in conversation with her in looking at how to provide that small group instruction, which has been a challenge to go from half the class last year to a full class. Definitely increase in behaviors this year because they came in with a different skill set, and learning how to manage a full class, the new program, and learning how to do small group instruction. They do their full group instruction with the whole group, and that was taking up more of the time. But what's most valuable is being able to provide individualized instruction or small group instruction on top of their core instruction. So she's been working with them on how to do that and how to manage. Also, how to use manipulatives in the classroom. You know, when your kids are fiddling around all the time and you have manipulatives, it's important that they have those manipulatives in front of them to use during the instruction. And they have verbalized that, organization of those pieces and just the management has been a challenge, and she's there to help them and support. And so they're already thinking about next year, what is this going to look like? That's one of the goals for next year. How do we make sure that that's always there for our students? So it's just not the paper, pencil, or the verbal task. She's provided training for my interventionists and my standard-based teacher. They look at the data. They look at the prerequisite skills and the essential skills that the students need that are receiving intervention in Title I and pulling those lessons. And they're also, because interventionists are ed techs, so they're getting a greater understanding of the mathematical concepts and the scope and sequence of mathematical learning. So that is going to be essential for how they instruct the students. They're going to have a better understanding, why sometimes it takes a little longer for students to close the gap. She, the other day, spent time having them identify what age or grade level certain skills would come into play. And when we were looking at those skills in a span, some of our students, let's say in end of kindergarten, some of their skills may still be the skills that would be at 3. So if you're looking at how many skills they need to develop to get to where we want them to be is pretty significant. So sometimes 1 year is not enough. It takes multiple years to close the gap. Pre-K for me, K for me, I've been talking about that all year long. Very proud of both, grade levels. Marge came into the building and visited the building, but came to really see the pre-K program in action. And K for me. And my first grade teachers are dabbling or thinking about focus on first, which is a continuation of K for me through the state. So either they'll take that on this coming year or the following year, but they're very interested. So it's again a centers-based thematic program that incorporates hands-on learning, collaboration, social skills, the arts, literacy, and those components. Jolly Phonics. First grade will be training this summer to take on Jolly Phonics, incorporating that next year. So we've had it in pre-K, we have it in kindergarten, and now it'll be in first grade. So we're building up every year, building capacity and common instruction for our kids. So on the community focus was, this year to we've been kind of isolated for the past couple of years, was to bridge our school and community, even though we couldn't really have anyone in the building. PTO has been our group that has really bridged us together to access the community. We had a book fair twice this year at a local book fair. They provided a winter carnival at Tasseltop in Raymond, and so community members have really supported us. Today they did a lovely breakfast, which was so much food that I think we have it for all the rest of this week and next week. But McDonald's donated lots of pancakes. You want pancakes? Come on over. Good Life Market, many of the businesses donated quite a bit of food. So it speaks to our community and how they want to support our educators. Also, we've got after-school clubs going on, and that we're working through with the Wyndham Rec program, the running club. The kids love the running club. They talk about it. They're very excited. Mad Science and karate. Hopefully, we can bring in more after-school programs next year. But I am working with the Wyndham Rec program to be able to do that. I will say June 2nd, we will have our concert, 3rd and 4th grade concert at JSMS. So that will be exciting because we haven't had a concert in a couple of years. So we have a large group of 3rd and 4th graders. Mrs. Gordon is having to use the gym for chorus practice. So that's come and join us on June 2nd at 7 o'clock at JSMS. The other thing we have added this year, or back with the help of Christine Bertnay, is pre-K and K screening for our students. So we're not only screening our kindergartners, we'll be screening our pre-K students. So that will be bringing us back. We definitely are looking at for next year. I've been meeting with my team leaders how we can do more to bring our parents back into the building? How do we start the school year before even school starts with the kids coming to the school, an event beforehand, because parents haven't really been at our school. Social emotional, that I think really encompasses the year for our students and our staff. But Danielle spoke to that social thinking, common language and approaches that we have with our students. We're doing that at RES as well. We've had PD training on March in service. Next week, my staff that are the ed techs and anyone else that wasn't available on an in-service day will also receive the same training that my teachers received in March on social thinking, which is the group, a whole body listening, the group plan, size of the problem. The teachers have mentor texts that they read. It's stories, and then you have conversations. But the training was the next level. How do you embed it in your daily practices in your classroom? It's not a moment of let's sit down and just read and talk about it. It's like, how do you as a teacher and educator engage students in those conversations during their day when they're, maybe frustrated at the block center because someone knocked over their blocks, and we've got to say, how do we, what's the size of this problem? Is it big or small? And help them to problem solve. And also it focuses on their feelings. Is how are you feeling, how are you making someone else feel? So if they can identify feelings more than the behavior, they're more apt to reflect. So we've been working on those strategies that are more at the tier 1 level across all classrooms, across all settings in the school. For our students that struggle a little bit more, we have the RTI process, and that's where we look at putting in interventions for our students. We have right now for some of our 4th graders, they are mentors to students in pre-K. That's one of their incentives they earn. They have to be responsible and follow our eye care rules, and they go in and help the pre-K class in the morning. And that's really shifted for those students. They have a goal, and so they love going in there. And the little 4-year-olds just look up to them. So, when they're coming in, from off the bus or from their parents' car, they're starting to acknowledge each other, and they're walking in together. It's really sweet. So it is bringing us back to where we were at RES, because we had started doing some mentoring. So we're getting there. I want to say, again, increased social work services. We have a little bit of a setback, I think, for both of our schools. We did add a regular ed social worker this year, 1 day per week at each building. But since then, a social worker, Sweetser social worker, has resigned. So we have some students that are not receiving their services, and that we probably won't be able to replace that person until next year, and hopefully we can. So it's always a moving target every year with our outside providers. So that's, it makes it a little challenging for our kiddos, because our other social workers are have full capacity right now. I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome Kyle Rhodes, principal of Wyndham Primary School.
Okay, well, good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to share about what's happening over at the primary school. And since in October and again in March, I kind of gave you some information about our goal work and the progress. I'll try to not repeat much, but kind of build on what I've shared already. Before that, I want to just share a quick story. So I opened up my email yesterday, and a teacher had forwarded me a message from a parent. I go, okay, what's up? What's going on? Because it says, yes, I'll forward this to Dr. Rhodes. My name was spelled not correctly, but that happens quite frequently with my name. And I open up, and all I see is this cloud of smoke that's pink, blue, and purple. And I keep scrolling down through the email, and I see an outline of what looks like my face. It's from the Color Dash. It's a picture a parent was sending me of the Color Dash. And I have to just kind of just celebrate that day on Sunday, because normally we have somewhere between 250 to 300 family participants. We had over 500. We never expected that many. And great team, but the amount of support we got to have that event was amazing. So yes, we had parent volunteers. Yes, we had staff involved. We had the Wyndham High School Odyssey of the Mind teams going the worlds volunteering their time. Some of their parents were there. And it really did take a team that was committed to having a wonderful event. And it was great. The smiles on the faces of the children, the thank yous that staff were getting from parents. And then we had DJ Dave, bus driver, Bus 21, putting on some music, and I heard that he was calling for me for over 10 minutes to come get into the dance, what they call those things, the dance party in the middle of the, and people were like, nah, he's still running, wait for him to get back running. And of course I had no choice at that point. But it was just a great time for everyone, and it kind of it goes directly with one of the school goals that we've had this year, which I'm going to end with. But before we get to that goal around belonging, one of our goals this year was around one of the teaching standards, which is the quality teaching standards, effective instructional teaching practices. It's standard 2D, if you want to know. But it also aligns really well with core belief 4 of the strategic plan, which is around shared leadership and around quality professional development. And so what we wanted to do was look at our curricular programs that we have and what are some of the practices that are good practices in that program and scale them up. So my observations have been this year that I've seen, for example, this: learners talking to each other about their learning. We started that in writing. Happens a lot more now in math as well, and in other areas. So that partner talk is a great way to learn. We know that about our learners. And a theme I want you to walk away with tonight is this: the coaches that we have, Melissa Bois and Casey Dubé, have been instrumental to this work. Because on an ongoing basis, they're working with individual teachers, small groups of teachers, and our whole entire staff. And that's happened throughout this whole school year, and in the past as well. Been a little more difficult the last couple of years. But they are truly crucial to this work. And the other group that's truly crucial to this work is the teacher teams that meet twice a week and talk about individual learners, how they're going to meet those individual learners' needs, and what are they doing that's effective instructional practices in their classrooms and sharing it with their peers. That's a powerful teaching tool right there. And it also is part of that shared leadership. They're feeling empowered because they're sharing what's working in their classroom with their peers, which then benefits the learners in other classrooms. So partner talk's been one thing I've seen a lot more work with. How we use small groups. Casey's done some wonderful training that is about math, but that can be used in almost any subject area. Grouping learners by interest, not just by their ability. And so she's really opened eyes, I think, to some of her teachers, and I've gone and observed teachers. I'm seeing them talking about how they're using small group instruction a little differently than they have in the past. All good stuff. All effective instructional strategies gets right back to standard 2D. With our math program, it's based on the 8 mathematical practices that the National Teachers Association for Mathematics would like to see in programs. Our program does that. We have a teaching tool that we use as a school district that came from the Ready Class program that allows us to go and help us see that in action. And I see more of those 8 mathematical practices happening. Like, for example, one of them's facilitating mathematical discourse, which is a fancy way of saying, let's get the learners to really talk about math, right? And I can see more of that happening than it did 2 to 3 years ago. And I know that's something that we've dedicated math trainings from Ready Math on just that, focusing on just that mathematical practice. But Casey's done even this year whole group trainings, and I know that she's worked with individual teachers who have said, hey, look, help me get that mathematical discourse. And teachers have said to me, hey, come in and help me put more mathematical practice, more math talk into my work with my learners during their math workshop. So I'm pleased to share that that's all happening, and that's all progress, and that's great. But we wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have those math coaches at the speed that we're doing it at, okay? So, and the PLCs that we have, those teaching teams. So now I'm going to get to the next piece, which is around our second goal. And I want you to think about yourself for a moment. When you've been part of a group and you have felt like you belong to that group and you're connected to that group, think about what that allows you to do, how you feel when that happens. You probably feel valued. You probably feel like you can make a difference with that group. You feel like you're part of something more than just being an individual. That was one of our goals this year. How do we help everyone feel like they belong and then connected? It ties right back to our core belief one, which is around equity. Because if you feel like you belong and are included, you're going to feel like things are more fair. That's what I've experienced in my life. And so that's one piece that we've tried to do. And what are some of to kind of build on what I've talked about before, one of the action steps was to reach out to our families and say, what do we do that works already? What makes you feel connected? And what else could we do to help you feel more connected? I'm pleased to share, and this isn't why we did it, a lot of what we're doing, they want us to keep on doing. So, for example, like the Color Dash, they love those events. They want those events, such as the popsicles. They want to bring back the concerts. They want to bring back the other events that we do throughout the year. Some other ones that they mentioned were, just making sure we have open houses at the beginning of the year, which we did this year. Every teacher did an open house before the school year started, because it welcomed them back to feel like they were part of our school. And then parts like the Seesaw platform. All of our families have access to it. All of our teachers use it. It's become a great tool because you can take your phone and you can see what's happening with your child's classroom and keep track of what's going on from the office or from the classroom teacher or from the art teacher, from the PE teacher. We can all be connected that way. Bring back movie nights, art show. Those were other pieces of the survey that came through. And then one piece that we'd be able to even start, and when I'm looking towards next year, how do we build on extending the learning opportunities outside the school day for our learners? Because I believe I shared briefly about clubs that we had put together. I think it was right after the holidays, the winter holidays. We've started another session because of the demand from the first session that has been going on for 2 weeks now. Those sessions, registration filled in 48 hours. The notice went out on Friday, and by Monday morning, and I got an email from the director of that on Sunday saying, what are we going to do, because they're all full. That just shows how much of a desire there is for our families and our learners to be involved in things like guitar, even literacy and math games. We got a yoga. This time we've got a creative craft. What I've heard from the people doing it, the kids are having a blast making all these different kind of crafts. So it's extending learning opportunities in different ways for learners. And we're going to build on that next year. We're going to see how can we really go with that. We've got a Spanish club that connects us back with the high school. The Spanish Honor Society has a couple of their learners that are coming down and doing once a week a Spanish club. There was 18 slots. All I did was put one message out on Seesaw. 30 minutes later, it was full. That's how much our families want to be their children to be involved beyond just the 3 hours. They want to have their children involved in opportunities where they can connect, where they can be social, where they can learn some new skills and have fun doing it. So we're really going to try to build on that. We've also got Girls on the Run, which is going on, and that's something that's really been a popular both in the past and now, and that's all run by our staff after school hours. So kudos to them. What a great way to empower girls. And they're fun to watch because a lot of their practices go out in front of my office window. So I just really want to kind of leave you with that piece, just that's going to be what we're going to working at building off of the success we've had this year, is those extending those learning opportunities. So once again, thank you for your time.
Any questions? No?
Okay.
Thank you, Dr.
Have a
Rose.
great night.
Appreciate your time.
Welcome.
We're going to move on to A motion for second-year probationary contract status, which means that you have to read all of the names.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant second-year probationary status for the 22-2023 school year to the teachers listed. And apologies in advance if any names are mispronounced. Caitlin Spalding, teacher of the deaf, district-wide. Travis Geisert, speech therapist, district-wide. Austin Carr, grade 8 teacher, Jordan Small Middle School. Brianne Gagne, special ed teacher, Manchester Elementary School. Jessica Bartholomew, school counselor, Raymond Elementary School. Megan Raymer, school nurse, Jordan Small Middle School and Raymond Elementary School. Amanda Pope, physical therapist, Raymond Elementary School. Catherine Petrus, health and physical education teacher, Wyndham High School. Tomisa Emerson, guidance counselor, Wyndham High School. Jennifer Long, English teacher, Wyndham High School. Lauren Ruffner, life and physical science teacher, Wyndham High School. Autumn Carlson Cook, grade 8 teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Abigail Merriman, Miriam, special ed teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Kelsey Douglas, kindergarten teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Molly Rucker, kindergarten teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Maya Minette, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Catherine Glenn, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Skylar Cambridge, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Kata Driscoll, art teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Chelsea Keebler, kindergarten teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Kimberly Proctor, grade 1 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Felicia Delcourt, grade 1 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Mary Samburin, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School.
Second.
Thank you. Any public comment? Any board discussion? All those in favor?
We need to do a roll call vote.
Oh, that's right.
Hey, Chris, I have a question.
Sure.
Just because I don't know, are these motions, this one and the next one, affected at all by the future budget vote, on the 18th and again in June?
No.
Budget doesn't get approved, what happens to these motions? I assume they'll be approved.
So we would, so none of the positions here are actually new positions within the budget. These are existing positions.
Right.
So it would then require a reduction in force, and there's a process in the contract for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Roll call, I said.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Kate Bricks,
Here, yes.
Jessica Bridges,
Yeah.
Jenny
Can't
But.
hear me.
I can hear you.
There we go.
Jenny Butler,
Yes.
Marge Gavoni,
Yes.
Pete Hensler,
Aye.
Char Jewell,
Yes.
Kate Levier,
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
We all set? Okay, may I have another motion, please?
Okay, I will do this. I should have took the first one. I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant continuing contract status to the 2022-2023 school year to the teachers listed here. And again, same thing. I apologize ahead of time if I clobber anybody's name. Casey Dubé, math coach, district-wide. Laurie Bond, gifted and talented, Jordan Small Middle School and RES. Jed Bloom, applied technology STEM teacher, Jordan Small Middle School. Charles Martin, health teacher, Jordan Small Middle School. Kimberly Fournier, social worker, Manchester Elementary School. Timothy Sear, occupational therapist, Manchester Elementary School. Jean Demers, standard-based teacher, Manchester Elementary School. Julie Clark, art teacher, Manchester Elementary School. Caitlin Marone, speech-language pathologist, Manchester Elementary School. Caitlin Cashman, pre-K teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Victoria Drew, standards-based teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Susan Gagnon, grade 3 teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Sarah Childs, grade 2 teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Catherine Hatfield, resource room teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Olivia Hamilton, grade 1 teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Tracy Peterson, self-contained teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Jennifer Smith, kindergarten teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Catherine Tompkins, pre-K teacher, Raymond Elementary School. Lisa Zeisler, speech language pathologist, Raymond Elementary School. David Dyke, Latin teacher, Wyndham High School. Catherine Hurl, music chorus teacher, Wyndham High School. Kenneth Poulin, social studies teacher, Wyndham High School. Chelsea Scott, English teacher, Wyndham High School. Christopher Malone, physical science teacher, Wyndham High School. Amber McKenzie, special ed teacher, Wyndham High School. Tammy Lorenzotti, technology instructional leader, Wyndham High School. Jennifer McVeigh, psychologist, examiner, provider, Wyndham High School. Noah Esty, social studies teacher, Wyndham High School. Chris DiBernardo, math teacher, Wyndham High School. Mary Dempsey, school counselor, Wyndham High School. Mary Gocher, special ed teacher, Wyndham High School. Logan Hallett, grade, what?
You were saying high school.
Oh, Wyndham Middle School. Logan Hallett, grade 8 teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Gail White, school nurse, Wyndham Middle School. Lindsay Sedgwick, health teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Ann Fogier, health teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Hillary McHugh, art teacher, Wyndham Middle School. Brittany Cabana, speech language pathologist, Wyndham Primary School. Mitchell Hodge, special ed teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Marissa Michaud, kindergarten teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Marissa Rhodes, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Sarah Bolo, occupational therapist, Wyndham Primary School. Beth Chiazzo, kindergarten teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Susanna Stevens, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Hold on a second. I gotta get my pages apart. Heather Reed, grade 1 teacher, Wyndham Primary School. Elizabeth Kaplinger, grade 2 teacher, Wyndham Primary School.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Roll call.
Can I just, for the public to know why this list is so long this year, is that previously in statute, there was a three-year probationary period for teachers. That was changed a couple years ago to now a 2-year probationary period. So this is the year that individuals that were on the 3-year probationary period are also intersecting with individuals that are on a 2-year probationary period, and then moving forward from this so that you actually have 2 years worth of individuals that are intersecting at the exact same time. So that's why the list for this one particular one is double the length. So to the vote, Kate Bricks.
Yes.
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler.
Yes.
Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Pete Hensler.
Aye.
Char Jewell.
Yes.
Kate Levier.
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Thank you. Item 15, renewal of administrator contracts.
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2022 to 2024 to the following administrators: Randolph Crockett, Principal, Jordan Small Middle School; Elizabeth Peavy, Principal, Raymond Elementary School; Kyle Rhodes, Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Danielle Danini, Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Andrew Patton, Principal, Wyndham Middle School; Ryan Karen, Principal, Wyndham High School; Crystal Vargo Ward, Assistant Principal, Manchester Elementary School; Phil Rossetti, Assistant Principal, Wyndham High School; Vanessa Michaud, Assistant Principal, Wyndham High School; Diana Jordan, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Primary School; Craig Hames, Head of School, Assistant Principal, Katahdin Program.
Second.
Thank you. Public comment? Board discussion? Roll call?
Kate Bricks.
Yes?
Jessica Bridges.
Yes.
Jenny Butler.
Yes.
Marge Gavoni.
Yes.
Pete Hensler.
Aye.
Char Jewell.
Yes.
Kate Levier.
Yes.
Mike McClellan.
Yes.
Thank you. Number 16, renewal of administrator contracts. A motion?
I move to approve the superintendent's recommendation to grant extended contract status for 2022-2023 to the following administrator: Peter Hill, Assistant Principal, Wyndham Middle School.
Second.
Thank you. Public comment? Seeing none. Board discussion? Seeing none. Roll call, please.
Kate Bricks?
Yes?
Jessica Bridges? Jenny Butler?
Yes?
Marge Gavoni?
Yes.
Pete Hensler?
Aye.
Char Jewell?
Yes.
Kate Levier?
Yes.
Mike McClellan?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 17, RSU warrant and notice of election.
I move to post the warrant and notice of election for the Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum presented to the meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the Regional School Unit Budget Validation Referendum be and is hereby called for June 14th, 2022, for the purpose of approving the budget adopted at the Regional School Unit Budget Meeting for the 2022-2023 fiscal year.
Second.
Thank you. Public comment? Seeing none. Board discussion? Roll call, please.
Kate Bricks?
Yes?
Jessica Bridges?
Yes.
Jenny Butler?
Yes?
Marge Gavoni?
Yes.
Pete Hensler?
Aye.
Char Jewell?
Yes.
Kate Levier?
Yes.
Mike McClellan?
Yes.
Item number 19, do I have that right? Roman numeral 19, RSU 14 budget meeting, budget referendum.
I move to vote that the warrant for the Regional School Unit 14 budget meeting presented to the meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the Regional School Unit budget meeting be and is hereby called for May 18th, 2022, for the purpose of voting on the annual budget for the Regional School Unit for the 2022-2023 fiscal year. And that the notice of amounts adopted at budget meeting presented to this meeting be and is hereby approved, and that the superintendent of schools of the Regional School Unit 14 is hereby authorized and directed to complete said notice by adding the amounts approved by the voters for each expenditure category and the total school budget summary expenditure amount, all in accordance with the Regional School Unit budget meeting on May 18th, 2022, and to cause copies of said notice as completed to be delivered to the municipal clerks of each municipality of the Regional School Unit for posting at the polling places for the June 14th, 2022 Regional School Unit budget validation referendum.
Second.
Thank you.
Seems like a run-on sentence.
Wow.
That was an expensive sentence.
That was a mouthful. Any public comment? I see none. Board discussion?
No pause.
Roll call, please.
Kate Bricks?
Yes?
Jessica Bridges? Jenny Butler?
Yes?
Marge Gavoni?
Yes.
Pete Hensler?
Aye.
Char Jewell?
Yes.
Kate Levier?
Yes.
Mike McClellan?
Yes.
Just
Thank-
want to also, just one last thing about the vote is that board members, I do need you to sign warrants before you leave tonight for the 2 votes that you just took so that we can post those to the clerks.
Okay. We will hang out. Don't leave. Item 20, report of the secretary.
I move to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
Public comment? Board discussion? Roll call, please.
Kate Bricks?
Yes.
Jessica Bridges?
Yes.
Jenny Butler?
Yes?
Marge Gavoni?
Yes.
Pete Hensler?
Aye.
Char Jewell?
Yes.
Kate Levier?
Yes.
Mike McClellan?
Yes.
Item 21.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Kate Bricks?
Yes.
Jessica Bridges? Jenny Butler?
Yes?
Marge Gavoni?
Yes.
Pete Hensler?
Aye.
Char Jewell?
Yes.
Kate Levier?
Yes.
Mike McClellan?
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
It was the warrants.